In unit number 18, we go up to page 382 and we go into the eligibility for coverage for group insurance. Go down to the employee eligibility and highlight the first two bullets. We have full-time employees and actively at work. The state might ask you a question here. Go down to the dependent eligibility and highlight that first sentence. You've seen this before. Put an asterisk here. The state will ask you this question. Coverage must also be made available to the participating employee's spouse or children up to the age of 26. Underline age 26, put an asterisk here. This includes stepchildren and adopted children, and it applies whether or not the child is married or a student. Highlight all of the next paragraph. This is another state exam question I've seen. Highlight. Many states require that children older than age 26 be covered by the plan if they are mentally or physically disabled and they're unable to support themselves. You've seen that before. The state's going to ask you that question. Remember, if your child has a physical handicap or is mentally handicapped, they can stay on their parents' plan past age 26 if they're dependent upon their parents. And that makes sense to me that we want to keep our children with their family's plan. We go down to probationary or waiting period. The state will ask you the difference here. Highlight. During a probationary period, new employees must wait before they can enroll in the employer's group health insurance plan. Probationary periods are typically range from 1 to 6 months. So remember, we saw this before. We have a probationary period. Your key track word is new employees. Then they go into the enrollment period. So again, the state's going to make sure you know the difference here. Remember, we have the initial enrollment when you're first eligible. Then we go into special enrollment, like when you get married or adopt children. The state is going to make sure you know the difference on these enrollment periods. Now, let's go down to eligible period and open enrollment. Highlight everything in this next paragraph. There is a state exam question here. Put an asterisk here. When the probationary period ends, new employees can enroll in the group health insurance plan during the eligibility or the enrollment period, which is typically 30 or 31 days. Underline eligible or enrollment period and underline 30 to 31 days. That is a state exam question. There may be two here. Go down to the next sentence. This is a state exam question. Highlight this, put an asterisk here. Most states require insurers to also offer open enrollment period every year. The state is going to ask you about open enrollment. They may try to confuse you with general enrollment. We'll talk more about that later. Now, let's go down to the last paragraph on this page. Highlight. Late enrollees, individuals who want to enroll for coverage at any other time other than the initial eligibility period or the annual open enrollment period, may be required to provide evidence of insurability. So remember, general enrollment is from January 1st to March 31st, and the state's going to ask you about annual open enrollment, which usually starts in October through early December. Page 383, go down to the coordination of benefits. The state will ask you a question here. Let's read. Many working couples are covered as employees under their own employer's plan, and each is also covered as a dependent under their spouse's plan. This type of double coverage can result in the individuals being overinsured. Highlight overinsured. This means we have one person with two plans that they could file a claim against. This is how they're going to deal with it. Which means the individual is able to collect benefits in excess of the amount of the loss. Highlight the next two sentences. To avoid this situation, group health insurance policies contain, underline, the coordination of benefits. Put an asterisk here. The state will ask you this. Coordination of benefits provision, which says that if a loss is payable under two group health plans, one plan will be considered primary and the other plan will be considered secondary or excess. So this makes sense to me. So my spouse, my husband and I, let's pretend that we both have jobs at two different employers and we have two different plans. I would be primary under my own plan. My husband is primary under his plan with his employer. I would be a dependent on his plan, and his plan would be second to mine. And same with my husband on my plan. He would be second on my plan. Remember, whoever the employee is the primary, and if you're married, then that spouse's policy would be secondary. Now, let's go down to the bottom of page 383, the last paragraph, first sentence. It says, we have a different rule called the birthday rule. Highlight, underline the birthday rule, put an asterisk here. Every state exam I've taken has asked me about the birthday rule. What this means is this. Again, we have a husband and wife, we have a family, and we have two plans, one at each spouse's employer, and we have children. Well, which plan is primary for our children? We do it by what's called the birthday rule. Now, in my household, my husband's birthday is in October. My birthday is in November. So under the birthday rule, my husband's birthday becomes before mine. His birthday's in October. So his plan would be primary for our children, and my plan would be secondary. This is called the birthday rule. The state will probably ask you that question.